everyone, my name is Jaybird and welcome back to Lake of Voices. I'm very tired right now. I don't really remember what happened last time. I remember what happened last time. I just don't know where we left off at. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This one. This is the one. Oops. After moving on, I find Bumley in a jagged clearing, leaning against a tree. He's already noticed me and is looking my way, smiling. As I get closer, I can pick up on the sadness behind his jovial expression.
How are you faring? Any problems?
Everything is fine. I came to check on you.
How kind. I've calmed down since then.
Oh, good.
I'm glad to hear that. Is there any way I can help or anything you'd like to say?
Why do you sound like a robot, Kika? Have you not talked like a normal human being before? He raises an eyebrow at that, his grin becoming markedly playful.
I didn't expect to see you so worried about me, Kika.
I have to force myself not to avert my eyes at that comment, embarrassment flowing into me. Bumley notices my reaction. He does not draw attention to it, however. Instead, he throws his arms out wide with a sour expression.
Have you seen the guide?
Bumley is clearly asking out of a sense of obligation and makes no secret that he's not pleased to be discussing the guide. I nod in response.
I saw him earlier. He is the same as always.
Good. In that case, I'm going to stretch my legs for a bit. I feel stiff from standing in one place for so long.
I bid him a brief goodbye. Bumley waves as he departs. I find that behind me leaves Russell. I turn to face the noise with noticeable unease. What I see is the guide. I blink in surprise. I didn't expect to run into him, and from the look on his face, he didn't expect me either.
Hello again. Is everything well?
Nothing has changed.
Oh. Sad. I considered his words.
That is the best we can all hope for under these circumstances.
The guide nods.
Yes. It won't be much longer before it's time to depart. I will wait here for the time being.
Fine.
The guide is a strange figure. Oftentimes, it feels as though he has scarcely any presence at all, and at other times, he makes me feel apprehensive. In this instance, however, I don't mind his company whatsoever. We wait in somber silence until the sun begins to vanish from the sky.
It is time to go to the meeting point.
I nod. We walk together. The lack of conversation does not weigh on me whatsoever. There is nothing to say in this moment, and there's no nagging pressure to fill the silence. When we arrive, the spot is empty. The guide quietly gazes out into the forest. I find myself closely observing him. It surprises me how accustomed I've become to his ways. As I watch him, I feel a sense of resolve. The guide has made this trip more times than one could count. I need to remember that this is possible. We can survive. Before too long, Bumley appears. He gives me a half smile as he waves.
Hello there.
Hi. I wave back to him. With the group now complete, the mood becomes tense. I can no longer ignore the fact that it's nearly time to leave again. However, I refuse to let go of this newfound determination. All three of us wait in silence until darkness overtakes the island. It couldn't be.
Even back when we started, the first time we met the guide, he mentioned that at least one of us would die before the journey was finished. Didn't that exchange seem strange to you? He said it as though it was a price to pay for coming with him.
I do not agree. Bemile's face darkens for a moment. I continue.
The guide may not care what fate lies ahead for us, that is fair to say, but that is not the same as intentionally conspiring against us.
Bemile opens his mouth in an attempt to counter, however I raise my palm to stop him. Tuck to the hand, boy!
Perhaps you may be right, Bemile. I'm not blindly trusting the guide. However, I believe it's too early to come to such a dire conclusion.
I will not rashly accuse him unless there is sufficient evidence supporting it. When I said that I was going to look out for the guide as well as the others, I meant it. He seems to have more to say on the matter, but he finally sighs and drops the topic. Instead, he pensively looks forward and we continue on. I feel gut-wrenching sadness for the guide. He deserves to have as good a life as any of us. Okay. The guide and I lock eyes. He doesn't release me from his gaze for a few heartbeats. Dot 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 dot. It's difficult to tell how much time has passed. It must have been hours, however, judging by how much energy I've expended. Since the time I recomposed myself, I have not stopped walking for a second. Despite how much distance I've put behind me, the twisting route still feels endless. I weave through the labyrinth, not allowing myself to dwell on the whispering creatures hidden below my feet. Hey, baby. You're looking hot. Looking like a spicy meal today. A spicy meal. A spicy meal! A spicy meal! Okay. Suddenly, from out of the nothingness, a faint light appears in the distance. It floats peacefully through the fog as if beckoning me towards it. The worry that my tired eyes are playing tricks on my mind drives me to fiercely rub them and look again. There it remains, drifting alone. Are the bridges ablaze again? No, the light isn't growing. Could it be the shore? Mesmerized, I begin to sprint towards the phantom light. The shine gets brighter and sharper until the source becomes clear. It's the guide! It's the lantern of the guide. He's here. My eyes widen incredulously as I stop in front of him. I cannot believe this! We were able to reunite in this maddening world of fog. No matter the shock, I notice immediately that he stands alone. Bemile is not with him. The weight of what that means hits me like a physical blow. Okay, I can only manage one word.
Where?
On the shore.
Oh. What? How? A frown of questions fills up my mind, yet I am no longer capable of releasing any kind of sound. Seeing the struggles I am having in processing what's happening, the guide reaffirms the fact of the matter.
We reached the other side. No one has died.
Oh, thank God. Fractions of tears form in the corners of my eyes, and for a brief moment I'm completely overjoyed. Bemile made it. He is alive, safe. Now that it is obvious, I fully understand. The guide unceremoniously turns around and heads down the bridge.
We need to move quickly.
I blink several times, unsure of how to react to what could be considered a miracle, but I instinctively followed to avoid being left behind. Our journey continues. The bridges, the lake, the destination, and the guide, they all are the same as they ever were. Yet for me, nothing feels the same. I have lost my sense of grounding. In this strange new situation, talking to the guide does not seem especially daunting. It makes it possible for me to finally speak aloud what has been lurking in my mind.
Why are you here?
If he truly made it to shore, what would compel him to return to the maze? It's a risk he of all people would know is great. He answers without turning. I am not allowed to see his face, but I get the sense that he is frowning.
Do you assume the death of a traveler is my first choice? To have any worth as a guide of this lake, you cannot be a fool. But neither can you be a coward. I knew that you would still be here.
The guide leaves it there. Again my eyes well up with tears that threaten to spill over. He believed I would survive. He put his trust in my abilities enough to come find me.
Thank you.
I watch as the guide's smooth gait. I watch his as the guide Smoothgate. No, fuck. I read that wrong. I'm sorry. I watch the guide Smoothgate as we continue on. Countless thoughts I want to tell him dance around my mind. However, he is the one to break the growing silence. That is surprising in and of itself. What he actually says is even more so.
Would you like to tie a string between us?
A red string of fate? Hey! Maybe. It'd probably break. If you keep being an asshole. Anyways.
What?
Yeah, what? Nani? Nani?
Tying a string from my wrist to yours will ensure we don't drift too far apart, and is a reminder you're not alone. If someone is taken, the string will snap. It is calming without putting either person in further danger.
Okay.
It cannot be done when there are many people. The lines would become tangled. Since it is only the two of us, it is an option I can offer you.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. I don't know the rest of the words. Yeah. He flicks his eyes back to search for my response. Oh, sure. I have to save. Shut up, everyone. Save. Fucking save. Okay. I stand awkwardly, dumbfounded at the offer. Somehow the idea makes me nervous, but I cannot argue its benefits. The guide ceases walking as well and dives a hand into his coat. I fidget in place, trying to remain alert. Of course they're playing the romantic music, too. After rummaging for a moment, he brings a spool of string out of his pocket. The guide pivots his body and tosses it to me. I manage to catch the spinning spool in the air as it attempts to unravel.
Tie it to the end of your wrist, and then throw it back.
I do as instructed, tying the knot tight. After giving the guide a signal, I toss the string across the length of the bridge to him. It creates a thin, brown lifeline between us. He catches it dexterously with his free hand. Turning to the side for a moment, he rests his staff in the crook of his arm. He snaps the string, storing the rest of it away before he locks the other end onto his own wrist. The guide gathers. Have you guys ever tried tying something onto your wrist? It's so hard, isn't it? Like, you can just put something on your wrist, but you can't, like, I don't know. Has anyone ever, like, successfully, like, managed to tie something onto their wrist? Like, by themselves with their other hand? Because I find that shit so hard to do. I don't even know if it's physically possible. But let me know if you can. Because I don't think I have the mental capacity to figure out how to do that. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with, like, you know, navigating mirrors. My brain just gets too confused, especially when, like, you know, I have to look at the back of my hair for something and use like two mirrors. I can't navigate that shit. It confuses me too much. Ah! Anyways, let's stop talking about how stupid I can be. The guide gathers a section of our link in his hand and tugs on it, making sure that my side isn't too loose. He stares down the path at me and we make eye contact. Oh my. As he gazes into me, I notice that there isn't any emptiness in his eyes, only strength. When did he change? I begin to wonder if I was the one who had to change in order to see what was always there. He shifts his focus away and the action pulls me forcibly back into reality. Oh, there goes gravity! Oh! I wait for the guide to get proper hold of his staff, and then we begin walking once more. The whispers of the lake ring loudly into the night. Occasionally, I steal a look down at the string. The effect it's having on me already is quite remarkable. Seeing it connect from my wrist to his does make me feel far better. It hasn't made us safer, but the dread of being left alone again has faded. I find myself wishing I could get those thoughts across to him. However, I am aware enough to know that this is not the time for those kinds of concerns. The whispers die down until they completely dissipate like steam in the cold. Excuse me. The remaining sounds in my sphere of awareness now are our footsteps and my measured breathing. Earlier, the guide mentioned that talking amongst one another was fine, as long as you remained aware of what is happening. I wonder whether he would mind conversing. It isn't to divert worries like it was on the first night. It's that I would like to hear him speak further. The more I've learned about him, the more interested I've become. Guide?
Yes?
Is it still appropriate to speak? If so, I would welcome a conversation with you.
He is silent for a time. The anticipation wraps itself taut around my neck as I wait for his reply.
I have a name.
What is your name? My name is Jeff.
What?
My name is Jeff. What a fucking dead meme. Am I right, guys? Whatever, it's still funny. Fuck you. Sometimes.
At the beginning, when I explained that silence was not necessary, your first comment was asking my name. I lied then. I do have a name.
You lied to me? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I thought we had something special. I'm just kidding. What's her name? I find myself at a loss for words. It's such a small thing, and yet it feels momentous. He has a name. Lied to me about it, is admitting to the lie he got away with, and he remembered my question even through the chaos. Without persuasion, he unveils more.
I do not wish to share it.
Damn.
Explaining why is also undesirable.
Fuck.
Thus, I've come to tell others I simply don't have one.
Well, that's boring. What is it, Keith? You know, the most, unattractive male name I've ever heard. I mean, not to say that Keith, if a guy is named Keith, that he's therefore unattractive, because, I mean, there's a Keith in my school, and he's pretty, attractive. But the name? Nah, fam. Nah. I will never date a guy named Keith. It just sounds too much like queef to me. It's nasty. I'm already reminded about fucking late vagina farts enough as on my own. I don't need a boyfriend that will remind me of it too. Or his name will remind me of it too. Whatever. Anyways.
It's surprising how easily others accept something as unusual as not having a name.
No, we all know. I'm pretty sure we all just are like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Sure. You don't have a name. Yeah, okay, whatever. Despite facing away from me, I feel his last line was spoken through a smile. It was. Still, it is admittedly quite strange. Even if someone is unnamed at birth, there is nothing stopping them from choosing their own. I grow red-faced at how that never occurred to me all this time. It wasn't degrading, but pointing that out may have been an intentional jab at my expense. He does not speak further, and the delicate pleasantries between us evaporate. His silence isn't the sort caused by a lack of topics, rather it's pensive. He's thinking on something. I wait for him. I would rather let him finish his thought than rush to fill the void with just any words. And he does finish.
It is easier to leave someone calling for help when they aren't pleading to you with your name.
Oof. Ooh! That hit me heavily. Oof. In the back of my mind, I worried it had to be something like that. I don't bother asking him the obvious burning question. If he wanted me to know, he would have said it. He's still afraid to give me his name. I go with the next option instead.
How long have you been known as the Guide?
I cannot say for certain. The past is something of a blur to me. Keeping count of time is difficult when so little changes on Sinlos. I imagine it must have been several years.
Don't mind me popping all my bones in my body, It's getting stiff. The guide couldn't be significantly older than I am. Such a large part of his life belongs to this lake. I try to give the dour thought a positive light.
Very few would be able to manage that position with so few years behind them. You are highly talented.
Just like my father.
Oh, this is a turn in the conversation that I had not expected.
I recall hearing many similar comments back when I spoke with those who knew Garvin.
Garvin the Exemplar led his people to so many victories. He is a genuine hero to my village. I admit, it is curious to speak with his progeny.
Progeny.
You're not. I am not Garvin's son. He would tell you so were he still alive.
I flinch at his words and immediately regret mine. I spoke so brazenly, it was nothing but thoughtless. I ready apologies, however there isn't an opportunity to even open my mouth before he adds more.
I know that when I was very young, I had no one to help me. I was to take care of myself. One day I decided to travel to the shores of Sinlos, where Garvin was. No one attempted to stop me. After many years on the battlefield, Garvin claimed territory in the area and founded villages. He wanted to understand the mystery of the bridges, or perhaps find another way to cross. To him, the dangers were a new fight, a new purpose. He was deeply wrong. Sinlos is far more than that. There was a presence residing in the lake that they didn't truly understand at the time. I didn't like what was happening. I tried to convince Garvin and his men to break their encampment and move on. It was at first assumed that I was merely a strange, overly fearful child from one of the nearby villages. However, with my persistence in getting him to go somewhere safe and the way I looked, it didn't take long for the rumors to start. Garvin did all he could to snuff out the belief that I was his child. To this day, I wonder if that was the reason he refused to listen to me, or anyone else who began to think leaving might be for the best. After several weeks of investigation, Garvin walked out onto the bridges as he had done many times prior. He brought with him a long rope which he tied to the dock. Usually he was able to return from his brief trips without any issue. However, that night, he never returned. His men pulled in the rope and found there was no one at the end. The rope was slashed through. That was when the creatures got their title, Nixie. The loss of Garvin the Exemplar was significant. Many years passed before any large effort was made to approach the lake again. During that time, I retreated from the public eye. It would have been too much for me to hold on to what Garvin left behind.
I mean, I'm not yawning because this isn't interesting. I'm just yawning because I'm tired. But this is interesting. That's why I'm not talking right now.
That life wouldn't last, for eventually interest in Sinlos as a connector between villages on opposite sides was ignited. I could not ignore it. I made my return to society to continue what I started. Despite Garvin's view on me, everyone from the original endeavor recognized me as his son. I was allowed to be directly involved as a member of the group. There were new attempts to cross the bridges. I was the first to survive it. All who were on the journey with me were lost. I left whoever had difficulties to the maze. It was a seemingly endless night. Death was at every turn. However, turning this back was not an option any longer. They were now willing to accept the loss of a few if it could mean success in the end. I cannot criticize them for it. I was willing to accept the same for my own cause.
Can we hurry this up? I'm getting tired.
I continued to cross the lake solely to show people firsthand the horrors. I told myself that I was to survive the trips at all costs. If I didn't, what would become of my hope for the future? The ones who did not live to tell the tale were an inevitability I did not turn away from. My remorselessness, innate talent, and luck were what enabled me to make it across each time.
Dude, you're gonna make me fall asleep. Like, legitimately. I'm already tired as it is. Can we hurry this up?
And then it came to be that no one who knew of what lies in Sinlos wanted to cross without me. My experience was invaluable. I used that to my advantage. They wanted a way to cross the lake, and I could give it to them.
Oh my.
I took my position as a guide, and the rest of the group returned to protect their villages from the many other threats that plagued this land. It was considered a success.
Finally! The guide shakes his head, ending his story. I have trouble responding immediately. It is much to take in. Eventually, I do manage to respond.
I appreciate you sharing all of that with me.
There's a sigh. Oh, he looks like he's about to cry.
It has been too long since I have explained myself to anyone. What happened then should not be a mystery. And yet, it is difficult for me to speak of.
He doesn't say anything more. However, I get a forlorn impression from him. I can see a whisper of it in his eyes briefly before he turns away. ... Oh my god, I'm tired! Oh my god, I'm tired! Holy fuck, I'm tired! Oh, well, I mean, it's as long as this video needs to be. So with that being yawned, if you guys enjoyed this episode of Lake of Voices and would like to see more of this game, then leave a like down below, leave a comment down below. Share with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, ring that notification bell, and remember, drive safely. Bye-bye!